Rain tapped softly against the cafe windows like fingers searching for a way inside. Outside, the streets of Seattle shimmered beneath gray clouds, while inside, the smell of fresh coffee and warm pastries filled the air. At a small corner table sat Ethan Carter, a single father whose tired eyes carried years of silent battles. Across from him sat his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, coloring on a napkin while humming softly. Ethan's hands were rough from construction work. His flannel shirt was faded, and the dark circles beneath his eyes revealed countless sleepless nights. 3 years earlier, he had buried his wife after a sudden illness. Since then, every sunrise had felt like another mountain to climb. Have you ever carried pain so long that it became part of who you were? Dad, can I get another cookie? Lily asked. Ethan smiled despite the ache in his chest. Maybe next week, sweetheart. Payday's still 2 days away. She nodded without complaining. That was what broke his heart most. She understood struggle far too young. At the other end of the cafe, a group of loud businessmen occupied several tables. Their expensive suits contrasted sharply with Ethan's worn clothes. Among them sat Trevor Blake, a wealthy real estate developer known around town for his arrogance. Trevor noticed Ethan counting change near the register. Look at this guy, he laughed loudly enough for everyone to hear. Can't even afford a cookie for his kid. Several people shifted uncomfortably. Ethan lowered his eyes and returned to his seat. Ignore them, he whispered to Lily. But Trevor wasn't finished. You know what your problem is. He called out. Guys like you always want sympathy. Life's hard. Get over it. The cafe grew silent. Lily squeezed her father's arm. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he remained calm. Please stop, he said quietly. Trevor stood. The man was large, broad-shouldered, and surrounded by friends eager to laugh at every insult. Oh, what are you going to do? Trevor sneered. Cry about it. Ethan slowly stood from his chair. The room seemed to hold its breath. What would you do if someone humiliated you in front of the person you loved most? I don't want trouble, Ethan said. Trevor stepped closer. Good. Because you don't look like you could handle any. Lily's frightened eyes filled with tears. And that changed everything. For a brief moment, something flashed across Ethan's face. Not anger. Not fear. Discipline. The kind forged through years most people could never imagine. Trevor shoved Ethan's shoulder. A collective gasp rippled through the cafe. Ethan took one step back. Last warning, he said calmly. Trevor laughed and swung a clumsy punch. What happened next occurred so quickly that most people barely understood it. Ethan moved. One precise sidestep. One controlled motion. Within seconds, Trevor found himself face down on the floor, completely restrained, unable to move. The cafe erupted in shock. Phones appeared. Conversations stopped. Nobody could believe what they had just witnessed. Trevor struggled helplessly. Who are you? He gasped. For the first time, Ethan's expression softened. Not with pride, with sadness. Because he had spent years trying to leave that part of his life behind. And now, because someone chose cruelty over kindness, the past was standing in the room with him once again. Trevor's face pressed against the polished cafe floor as disbelief spread through the room. The laughter that had filled the air only moments earlier had vanished. Ethan released him immediately and stepped back. I'm not here to hurt anyone, he said quietly. Trevor slowly got to his feet, his confidence shattered. Who the hell are you? He demanded. Ethan looked toward Lily, who was still clutching her stuffed rabbit. For a moment, he considered staying silent. But some truths eventually find their way into the light. I spent 12 years in Delta Force, Ethan said. The room became silent again. Even Trevor's friends stopped smiling. I've been deployed more times than I can count. I've lost friends. I've carried people home who never got to see their families again. His voice remained calm, but there was a weight behind every word. I didn't learn how to fight because I enjoyed it. He looked down at his hands. I learned because surviving was part of the job. Trevor stared at him. The wealthy businessman suddenly looked much smaller. But now, Ethan continued, now I'm just a father trying to raise his daughter. Lily walked over and slipped her tiny hand into his. The sight hit everyone harder than the takedown itself. Have you ever realized that the strongest people are often carrying the deepest wounds? An elderly woman sitting nearby wiped away tears. A young man quietly lowered the phone he had been recording with. Trevor swallowed hard. You could have seriously hurt me. Ethan nodded. Yes. The honesty in that single word was impossible to ignore. But I didn't. Trevor's eyes dropped to the floor. For the first time that afternoon, shame replaced arrogance. Meanwhile, Lily looked up at her father. Dad. Yeah, sweetheart. Are you okay? The concern in her voice broke Ethan's heart. He knelt beside her. I'm okay. You always protect people. Ethan smiled softly. I try. Lily wrapped her arms around his neck. The cafe remained completely still. People weren't watching a fight anymore. They were watching a father. A man who had survived wars yet still worried more about his daughter's feelings than his own pride. Trevor approached slowly. His voice was barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. Ethan looked surprised. So is she, Trevor added, nodding toward Lily. I embarrassed both of you. Lily studied him carefully. Children have a remarkable ability to see sincerity. It's okay, she said softly. Trevor's eyes watered unexpectedly. Nobody had shown him grace when he deserved criticism. That simple forgiveness struck deeper than any punch ever could. Without another word, Trevor walked to the counter and paid for every customer in the cafe. Then he purchased a large box of cookies and placed it on Lily's table. I think someone earned these. A small smile appeared on her face. The first genuine smile Ethan had seen all week. As father and daughter prepared to leave, sunlight finally broke through the clouds outside. Golden rays spilled through the windows. Lily looked up. Dad. Yeah, I think Mom would be proud of you. Ethan froze. Emotion tightened his throat. For several seconds, he couldn't speak. Then he squeezed her hand. I hope so. Together they walked toward the door. Not rich, not famous, not powerful, just a father and his daughter. Yet somehow they carried something far more valuable. Dignity. Because true strength is not proven by how hard you can hit. It is proven by how much power you have, and how gently you choose to use it. And sometimes the greatest warriors are not the ones who win battles. They are the ones who come home, love their children, and choose kindness when the world gives them every reason not to.